Welcome to Tomcat. Today we're going to do a preventative maintenance on a rider scrubber. This one happens to be our Tomcat Pro in a disc scrub deck configuration. The same PM that we're doing here would apply to any of our riders. Certainly to this Pro. Next size up is the CRZ, the EX, or the XR. So let's get started. Step one today for our preventative maintenance on this Tomcat Pro Rider scrubber is we're going to fill the solution tank and test all the functions and operation of the scrubber prior to getting started. So now that we have solution in the machine, we want to go ahead and check the operation of the LCD as well as the toggle switches here on the central command. So cycling the key switch on should light up a central command, which it's doing. Count to 3, the central command screen is going to go away and you're going to have the main operator screen. Battery gauge is right here. Looks like we got a full charge. My water flow is the next graph. Your blue toggle switch here that has the water drop next to it with a plus and a minus. I'm going to check and make sure that the water flow is changing with each click and that it's also capable of being turned off. Notice how the icon for water appears and disappears if I turn it off completely and then set it back. Down pressure is the last graph. That's controlled right here with this black toggle switch. I also want to cycle that through, make sure it is operational the way that it is meant to be. Yep, it will not completely zero out. You'll always have 2 bars left. Next, I'm going to go down here to my vacuum. I want to make sure that flip that switch, that my squeegee goes down. When I hit the gas pedal, my vacuum's going to turn on. You can see this icon is illuminated and animated. When I go in reverse, I want to make sure my backup alarm comes on, and then also my squeegee will lift automatically in reverse, which it is doing. Put the machine back and forward and the squeegee went back down. This is my toggle switch for my brush to drop the scrub deck to the ground. I'm going to click that forward. I can hear the actuator sending the scrub deck to the ground. It's indeed going down. Looks like everything is operational up top. I want to check next. There is a green button down here right underneath the Made in the USA flag on the side of your central command. When I push that, it tells me all 4 hour meters on the machine. Key switch is 6.7. Travel, the next one down, is 6.7. Scrub time is 1.9, and vacuum motor is 2.5. Now that we've checked the central command and everything is operational there, what you want to do is work on the steering column here. Make sure that the release for your tilt steering is working the way it should. Check the horn. And then you also want to check that your e-stop is working as it's supposed to. When I go ahead and hit that in, the central command went dark. The machine's inoperable. To release, twist counterclockwise, pops out. The machine comes back on. Also, when I stand up off of the seat switch, which is standard on all Tomcat riders, the machine is also rendered inoperable. So now that we have checked all those safety features and the function of your central command, we're going to go ahead and test drive the scrubber and make sure that it cleans and dries the floor as it should.
So now that we've checked our central command and the operation of the machine, we're going to go ahead and check the recovery system while we drain it. I'm going to start by taking the drain hose and dropping it with the cap in place just to make sure that it seals. It is sealed, no water comes out. Now I'm going to drain the machine. So this is a pinch hose, so we can pinch this off so that we don't shoot water everywhere. Bring it down and then open it up. While that drains, I'm going to go ahead and open up my recovery tank here. I'm going to inspect this gasket to make sure it's in good working order and we're not having any leaks. I'm going to remove the drain saver basket. With the basket out, I'm going to dump any debris into the garbage. I'm going to give this a rinse. At the same time, I'm going to go ahead and rinse my recovery tank out. Next, we want to check the ball float. This is designed to come up and block your vacuum in the event that you get overfilled. Open this, inspect the gasket, make sure that there's no tears, rips, or it's coming off, and we're going to remove the ball. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the ball completely and give this a quick rinse. I rinse this off because if there's soap residue on it, it can stick in the up position. We also want to go ahead and rinse this screen off. If the screen becomes clogged, you lose vacuum. I'm going to reassemble that, drop the ball in, close it up. This is a hose that goes to your vacuum motor. We just want to inspect that, make sure there's no tears, pinches in it, and reinsert here. At the same time, I'm going to completely remove my squeegee hose. This hose goes to the squeegee. I'm going to inspect that, make sure it doesn't have any tears, rips, or anything like that. This hose has a tear in it, so that's an indication that I've just sold a OEM part because I'm going to replace it. So if this hose was in good working order, I would actually go the next step to rinse it. If it was in good shape, I would then reattach. And at the same time I do this, I'm going to go ahead and release my solution drain hose. So the solution drain hose is the same as the site hose that we showed you earlier, and we're going to drain this out because we're going to be checking the solution system later. Okay, we're going to cover the solution system now. We're going to start with the fill screen. We want to make sure that the point at which we fill the machine is kept clean. Check the screen for debris and function. We're also going to go ahead and inspect our remote fill hose, make sure it's not torn or damaged. If it is, you can replace that part. Next, we'll go ahead and check our solution filter, which on this machine is in the service cabinet here. We're going to unscrew this, remove it, and then we're going to clean the screen. So regardless of whether it looks clean or not, it may be developing some residue, so we'll rinse this off and then we'll reinsert it in the machine. When we put this in, we want to put it on hand tight, not too tight. It has an O-ring, so we just want it snug. At the same time we're here, we're going to just make sure that the battery box drain is good, and we can do that by releasing it. And if we lose electrolyte or water, then we know it's functioning, and then we can seal that back up. Then we'll come around to the back of the machine. We're going to check our unloader valve and drain. So the unloader valve is directly back in the back there. It is a small vacuum valve. We just want to make sure that that's clean and can open. So one of the easier ways to do this is to go ahead and lower the squeegee. Then, once we've cleaned and checked that valve, we're going to check our ball here. So this is the vacuum, this is after the vacuum drain. If we have water in this, it's indicating that we've pulled water through the vacuum, and we're going to have a conversation with the operator at that point. So it is good. There's no water coming out. We're set. All right, now once we've finished with the solution system and the service cabinet, we're going to move to the scrub deck. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect the curtains and wiper blades to make sure they're in good working order, not torn or damaged, and that they're not worn out too much in the front. Then I'm going to go ahead and remove these. Now, if they are wearing, but the wear is even, we can actually lower this. And the up and down is done with the yellow knob. So if they're worn, we can lower it. If they're new, we can raise it up. Then we're going to inspect our drivers and our brushes. So this particular machine is equipped with a pad driver. You can also get this with brushes on it. To do that, we're just going to squeeze the scissor. Pad falls off. And we're going to inspect this for wear. Then we're going to inspect our driver, mainly looking for banding or shrink wrap or things wrapped around the shaft. And what we want to see is a nice clean fit when we put this back together. Squeeze, insert, and drop. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to rotate it to the other side, taking that brush off and putting it on here. Then we want to inspect our linkage. So our linkage on this machine is here and here. We're just going to make sure that that's tight and that the nuts have not backed out. I want to make sure our lock nuts are secure and that everything is in place. The next step is the level of the deck. So you'll notice the deck has a level here, and then there's one on the other side as well. The deck in the down position, going to insert the key, depress the seat switch, and lower the deck. Go ahead and activate the deck. And turn the power off. Remove the key. And check for level. Ball's in the middle. Check the other side. Float bubble is in the middle. If the bubble was tilted to the back, that would indicate that the deck is pitched in this direction, which would mean we need to shorten the turnbuckle to pull it back in line. The opposite if the ball is in the extended position. That adjustment is done by loosening both lock nuts, turning the center of the turnbuckle. Then we're going to inspect the wires on the motor for wear and or damage. This is done inside. You'll notice that the wires run here to terminal blocks here and here. We're just going to look those over, make sure that they're not damaged and that the blocks are secure and snug. Next, we're going to cover the squeegee and its adjustment and maintenance. First, we're going to remove it and clean this guy off. Take this to the sink, rinse it off real good. This squeegee is new, so we're just going to pretend we did that. Next, we're going to check for wear. If the squeegee is worn more than 45 degrees through the width, we can rotate it to this corner. If the squeegee is worn pretty badly on this side, we'll need to switch it to this edge. To do that, we flip the latch, open it, remove the bands, remove the squeegee from these retainers, and then we can flip it over. That way if it's heavily worn, that way if it's lightly worn. If the inner blade is damaged or torn, we need to remove that by these knobs. Then we remove the whole band and we can replace this inner blade. Notice that one side has 5 slots in the bottom, the other side has 3 slots. We use this 5-slot side for most floors, smooth, 3-slot for heavily grouted tile or damaged rough floors. Make sure that it doesn't slide. Flip it over and put your rear blade on as well. Gotta hold your mouth just right. When we put these on, we want to make sure that the long metal is towards the top of the squeegee. Want that to have some resistance, not a ton. Latch, make sure the squeegee doesn't slide. Then we're going to check the adjustment of the squeegee. Adjustment of the squeegee is best done with the vacuum on. Put the squeegee on, making sure these knobs are secure but not too tight. We want it to be able to break away if it needs to, and that they're not damaged. I'm going to put our squeegee hose back on, which we inspected earlier for damage. Then I'm going to turn the machine on, go forward a little bit. Now, if there's two of you working on this, it's great to have somebody pull forward slightly and you watch the blade. If you're working alone, you may want to just turn the machine off at this point and remove the key switch and inspect what the squeegee is doing. Now, we're going to need to be able to move this machine to properly adjust it. And to do that, I'm going to release the electric brake so that I can push it forward. Electric brake is in the front. I'm going to turn the tire sideways, release this brake. Then I'm going to straighten her out so she rolls forward. So we can see that this squeegee has one major problem. It is too low. It is deflected completely. So that's the height of the squeegee. To adjust the height, I'm going to remove this wrench. I'm going to use this slot to break our caster lock nut loose. Now bring that up. This one is down really low, so I'm going to go ahead and raise that up pretty high. I'm going to do this one. Now we're going to lower the squeegee down. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring the squeegee to a natural position. And then I'm going to lower that caster until just before it touches the ground. Make sure I can slide my wrench underneath the caster. We can show you that on this side if you'd like to see. I'm just going to snug it up just a hair. Now I'm going to just slide the machine forward a little bit. Still a little too low. Repeat the process. That looks pretty good. We want the corner rubbing, not the entire thing. I will say it seems to be rubbing more in the middle than the ends, so that's going to be a pitch adjustment. To adjust the pitch of the squeegee, we're going to break this lock nut loose, and then adjust the pitch set. pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and lock these a little bit. Then we're going to apply vacuum again and see what the result is.
Okay, so the next thing that we're going to check during our preventative maintenance is we're going to check the front wheel drive. And I'm going to start off with making sure that the parking brake works the way that it's supposed to, as well as the seat switch. On your operator screen, the central command LCD, if you are not in the seat, you will see a code of 1E03. As soon as I place my large rear end on the seat, the code goes away. The other thing that I'm going to be checking for is the parking brake, making sure that it engages and disengages when I work the gas pedal. So when I press the pedal, you're going to hear a click. Machine drives. When I let go, it engages again. The machine should stop in about 1 second once I let go of the gas pedal. All right, hopping off, I also want to check the front wheel for a couple of things. I want to engage and disengage the parking brake. Make sure that when I disengage, that I can freely roll the machine. And then when I flip it back in place, the machine will no longer move. One little important side note here for the machines is if you do have to push the machine manually out of the way, if the machine for some reason runs completely dead on its battery charge, you want to disconnect the power cables from the front wheel drive and release the front wheel brake so that you don't build up a reverse current and send it back to the controller. While I'm down here, I also want to inspect the front wheel and make sure that there's no pits, chunks, or splitting on the tire, which might indicate that the machine's being used in a manner it's not fitting for its proper operation. Next thing we're going to do is check the steering chain. So this is a brand new machine. We're looking right now up inside of the unit at your drive chain. This is an area on the scrubber that after it's been in service for a while, you might see caked with dust and debris. So you'd want to clean that off with a rag and then reapply grease or lube to the chain to ensure nice, smooth, easy operation. So now we're going to go over proper maintenance and inspection of your batteries. This is a 36 volt unit. It has 3 12 volt batteries. This one is equipped with the optional battery fill kit. It's a very important, handy option that makes watering maintenance batteries very simple. So the way that this is set up is you have a single port, take the cap off. You would take this end, plug it in. You heard a nice click. And then you have a manual pump. This loose end would go into a jug of distilled water. You'd put it in, prime the pump. The distilled water would go to each one of the cells that needs the water. And there's a baffle in there that once it's filled to the right level, it'll come up and shut off like a check valve so that you don't overfill or underfill your batteries. Once you're done and all the cells are watered, you disconnect, put your cap back on, and continue on with your work. We're going to go through a proper inspection of the electrolyte level on all 3 batteries. And to do that, you're going to want to use a hydrometer like we have here. Very inexpensive tool, but this is the best indication for the state of health on your batteries. You want to do this after the machine is charged. And it's also important when you're filling out your paperwork for your batteries that you label them correctly. The universal way to do it is that you find your main positive lead coming off of the machine, and that's going to be your first battery. Where your main positive cable is up here in the top left, that's going to be cell A, B, C, D, E, F. And that's repeated on these 2 batteries as well. So this would be battery 2, and then the A, B, C, D, E, F. Same thing with battery number 3. So I'm going to start by taking the electrolyte level. This battery fill kit, easy to install, easy to remove. You're going to pop these cells out. And I'm going to start with cell A. I'm going to start here so that it's easier to see. You want to fill your entire hydrometer with liquid, and then you can see the reading. You also want to inspect this for the color of the electrolyte. You want to make sure that it's not cloudy, there's no particulates in it. You want nice, clear electrolyte. Put that back into the cell, and I'm going to repeat the process on the rest of the batteries. So now that I've checked all the electrolyte in the 3 batteries, I want to go ahead and inspect the terminals as well as the cables. So what I'm looking for on the cables is to make sure that there's no fraying, nothing is cut through the insulation on the outside that would expose the inner cable itself. I also want to make sure that I don't see any bulges in the cable, similar to like what a snake would look like after it had a big meal. So you're checking that. If you see any corrosion, you want to remove it and spray it with a terminal protectant like you can see with this pink residue that we have here on this new machine. All right. So with a torque wrench, you want to inspect the torque on each one of these to 11 foot-pounds. It would help if it's turned on. That one's good. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do today after we've performed our PM is we're going to fill the scrubber, we're going to operate it and make sure that the machine's in proper working condition before we sign off and leave it with the customer. So now that we've finished our PM, we test drove the scrubber and made sure that everything was operational. We're gonna go ahead and drain the dirty water, rinse out the recovery tank, wipe the machine down, and leave it with the customer. Thanks for joining us. Remember, buy American, buy Tomcat. I love being American.